Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 WGC Dell Technologies Match Play. This is my Before the Lock show. First off and foremost, thank you for stopping by. Give me like 20, 30 minutes. I'm going to give you some, hopefully, strategy, some edges that's going to help you guys. I'm going to go over ownership. We're going to go over weather. I'm going to go over some ideas that I'm doing. I'm even going to walk you guys through in one of my completed brackets for the PGA Tour Bracket Challenge so you can see where I'm kind of leaning. And with that said, let's talk some golf. Okay, so if you missed yesterday's show, just real quick, I'm going to go over, some of the things that I think is most important. One of them was I went over past performers in match play at the Austin Country Club. I'm going to do this real quick because I went through this in detail yesterday. But if you want to know who has the best winning record here over many matches, now a lot of these guys also, you got to notice, played a lot more match play than some of these other guys. So the more you play, the better. But if you kind of look at the records, of course, Kuchar's got one of the best, but he is not in this field. So you got to focus on Kevin Kisner. You got Louis. Sergio's always great at match play. DJ, who's a past winner here. You got Alex Noren, who's been playing great golf. You got Bubba Watson, who's also a past champion here. You got Rahm, who typically does very well, but the short game has been pretty bad the last 4 events he's played in. See if he gets out of that. You got Ian Poulter, where I don't think his game is where it was, but, typically in these kind of events does very well. And then Jordan Spieth, kind of a wild card, right? I mean, his game, his irons, and his putter is not where it's been. But if it, comes alive, he starts making those Jordan Spieth-like putts. Watch out. And then kind of the next 10, starting with JT, who's in awesome form. And, the putter still could be a, iffy thing, but it has been looking better. Patrick Reed, who, recently did show really good form with the putter, but really has not played good golf. Oh, geez. It's been almost a year, I feel like. I was kind of laughing and saying it was part of it was when he switched over to PXG clubs, but it was even before that he wasn't the best of form. But again, this fits what he loves. Of course, he's Captain America. Paul Casey, which is a little shocking that he's playing. Maybe he just needed a week off and took Valspar off, but he's still in the field. And then if you might have saw Kevin Na one time under DraftKings was showing that he's out. That was only due to because he pulled out of, I believe it was the Players, because he had another child. But everything shows me that he is in the field. I've seen nothing from PGA Tour Communications stating that he's withdrawn. So Kevin Na is still in there. And always, real gritty kind of match player, great short game. Of course, Billy Hole, past champion last year. Fleetwood, who could be an interesting play because we're going to talk a little bit about the weather. We're going to see the first 2 days. You got Terrell Hatton, also pretty decent form where, I think it was at the Players, he gained it all with the putter and then couldn't putt and then gained quite a bit with the irons at the Valspar. Koepka had a good Sunday at Valspar and could be an interesting play, right? If he wants to help that world ranking, this could be a good spot to do it where he knows he's just got to take one guy down at a time. Of course, Leishman, an Australian, I always like him in the wind, and but his, short game hasn't been where it used to be. His driver and irons could always be a little bit like a Cam Smith, could be, a little wayward, where he, made up for it was on his short game. And then you got Patrick Cantlay, who, I think was always just an easy plug that he did everything very well, but again, a little bit like Rahm over his past 4 tournaments. His irons haven't been as sharp. The putter hasn't been as sharp. But again, he's had a little time. Might have been able to work some of that out. It could be great. And then real quickly, let's just go over the guys. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of these guys have a lot less experience in this tournament. This isn't taking in President's Cup. Of course, it ain't taking in, Ryder Cup experience. But long story short, the guys that have played the most matches with the least amount of success, even though Daniel Berger should fit this course perfect, and I like him. You got Berger, Fitzpatrick, Matsuyama is not in the field. You got Webb Simpson, where his game has just been super shaky, but also could be an interesting bet. I think he's like 70-1 because this should fit him. And if for some odd reason things click, as it can happen, he could do very well. You got Shane Lowry, who I'm pretty keen on, even though his record doesn't show. Been playing amazing golf. We know what he did at the Ryder Cup recently. And, of course, could play in the wind. You got Siwoo Kim, a Pete Dye master. But, hasn't had the greatest. You got Wiesberger, who's not in the field. Westwood, again, great Ryder Cupper in his early days, but just hasn't fared well too much in recent Ryder Cup and also in this event. And then you got DeChambeau, who I'm staying away with completely, which, if you did for some odd reason put him in your DFS or in your brackets, could be a differentiator because I think a lot of people are terrified. As I mentioned, from everything I heard, he just started swinging the driver, I don't know, a few days ago, literally. And I think this is just him to go see where his game's at. He gets to play, 3 competitive rounds and gets to work on some things. And I think it's just a tune up, of course, for the Masters. Yeah, Thomas Peters, who, had early Ryder Cup experience and did well, but is very volatile. He could be super hot. I almost put him like an EVR a little bit to me. And then you got these guys who are the right who haven't had the greatest experience, but I think there's some of the guys that could do very well here. Sebastian Munoz, I like Henley. Morikawa, I'm just, should fit him perfect because where he drives it, his irons coming in from that 125-ish, he's a master at, but has not been a master last at least 2 events. Zane Hooch should be a great fit because he has great short game. Now, again, with the putter, we saw some great putting prowess and short game, and then we haven't seen it recently. You got Mitchell, who's on a heater from a recent form. Victor Hovland's had a great 2022 season, but didn't see a whole lot at the Valspar, so, it could be a little interest. I think Kokrak, for me, I'm off. I've just seen so much of his, mishittings, and his putter is not where it was at. And then you got Keegan, who could be also very interesting in the windy conditions. Has played great recent form, has some great finishes this year, and then just had, not the greatest Valspar. And that could be a little bit of the downside of what happened at the Players on 18 that really, I think, affected him. So I would also look to Keegan to have, maybe a pretty good showing. Okay, so that's just some, again, knowledge for you on how guys have done in this kind of event in the past. All right, with that said, we're going to go over weather. I'll show you that towards the end. But just so you know, Wednesday and Thursday, we are going to have some strong winds. It does typically blow here, but it looks like we're really going to have some, stable winds. So what I want to do for you guys is pull up best wind players over the past 12 events playing in crazy ass winds. And these are the guys, and some of these guys only have like 8 or 9 rounds and really, really high winds. But these other guys have had a little more, at least 12 rounds. Funny enough, Tony Finau, and if you know ball flight, it makes sense, right? With Tony, he's got that lower ball flight. Shane Lowry can definitely, flight the ball. Will Z played in Texas, has had success. Cantlay, he's so accurate, but again, he's been a little bit off. You got Rahm, who, again, same thing. Europeans played quite a bit in those conditions and just a very accurate. I told you about Keegan. Again, back to that ball flight. He can flight it down. Seamus Power, who is from Ireland, I believe, of course, played in quite a bit of wind. You got to answer. It's kind of split between Mexico and Texas golf, so that makes sense. Koepka again just kind of hits a heavy ball, powers through it. Robbie Mack, European. Russ Henley, a great iron player, pretty steady off the tee. You got Reed, which I wouldn't take a lot of it. Scotty Scheffler, again a Texan, can flight that ball, hits that low fade, and then Alex Noren, of course, another European. So if you're thinking about trying to build some teams with that in mind when you see the weather, I think you might think a bit of that. I wanted to pass that on to you guys. All right, let's talk a little bit of strategy, and then I'm going to go over to ownership projections, and we look at the weather. And then I'm going to hop back, give you guys my picks, and go through my bracket. So it's going to be a pretty quick show. All right, so I mentioned yesterday, and this is kind of how I've been doing it. There's a lot of different strategies, but the first thing I told you guys, I emphasize, especially if you're new to playing this event on DFS, it's totally different than anything you've ever seen. And the reason why is you just got to watch the guys that you're picking because of this bracket. And the good news is that the guys that do the multi-mass entries into these large GPP tournaments, the 150 entries, you can't do that. You can do it, but good luck, because to try to figure out, if you do mass entry, you're going to click on all these, let's say 30 guys that you like. Well, it's not going to be able to organize where they're, which brackets are in, and you're not eliminating guys. So on the positive side, a lot of people, this is a difficult one because you really got to use strategy. You've got to, what I'm doing is taking this bracket, and for each entry I'm putting in, I'm making sure and mapping out what I'm doing and where they're coming from. So again, you might want 3 guys that come out of the left side, 3 guys that come out of this right side. And then again, the guys that you pick, right, you want maybe one in this group. You want to just separate them. You don't want to pick 2 guys, especially even like maybe from here, because technically they're going to get, one of them is going to get eliminated if they both make it out of their pods right here. So, I try to make it where I take one guy out of here, one guy out of here, maybe one guy out of here, and then I come over here. That's a strategy, right? Just spread out, have 3 and 3 you could do. I've also done a bit where I've done 4 guys out of one side, pick one out of each of the high and the low brackets. And then you could also just load up a whole side with your 6 picks and know that you're getting a better chance to at least get them into, the consolation or the championship match. I don't like that route because it really kind of, there's going to be somebody in a large GPP that gets guys, at least, the 2 guys should. You got 4 guys that are going to be here. They're going to get one and, some guys to the final matches on each bracket. So that's just, again, I want to emphasize, if you've not done this, or maybe you did it in the past and just kind of forgot, really work the bracket, go to PGA Tour, bracket challenge. You can print the bracket. I heard, I think it was on Mayo, they were saying they couldn't print the bracket. I don't know what the heck they're using over there, but you can print these brackets. What I did is I printed a bunch of these, and then as I go through my picks, I just kind of put a dash on the guy that I'm picking, and that kind of gives me that understanding of where do I need to get the next guy from and who do I like. And I'm also going to show you the first round matchups, which is going to be right here. So now this is another level you can get into. You can find this on Twitter if you go to PGA Tour Communications. And if you don't follow PGA Tour Communications, I highly recommend that. They're the ones that are going to tell you pin placements, weather. They're going to tell you, again, this kind of information. So follow them on Twitter if you don't already. If you're taking this, DFS golf and betting serious, again, no skin off your teeth. So go to PGA Tour Communications, follow them. All right. This is your Wednesday matchups, and I'm going to go through and highlight the guys that I think have the easiest path of resistance to win their first match, the Wednesday round. I'm not going to go through each of these, but I'm going to highlight and go. So here we go. All right, if you look at JT, he is playing Luke List. That's his first match. And the form that Luke List is in has been good, but again, I just think his putter is going to fall apart. So out of the 2, I think that's should be an easy win and some points. Now, on a side note, there is no showdown for this event. If you want to play showdown, you're going to have to go play the Corrales Punta Cana, which I thought was kind of shocking that you could easily have done showdown. Now, maybe that changes. Maybe something comes out later today. But, literally Wednesday morning, at whatever, 9 o'clock, it looks like first tee time, 9:20 on Texas time. So that's an hour behind me. I'm on the East Coast. Long story short, I didn't see any showdown. So if you want to play showdown, start looking into the guys. And I did, I'm not doing a show for Corrales, just not enough time. So anyways, like Justin Thomas to take on Luke List. The next guy that I'm focused on is Xander, has Takumi Kenyana. I think that should be an easy get. I also like Lucas Herbert. Now, funny enough, I know I just mentioned Tony Finau in the wind was up there, but I also mentioned his game I think his simplest way has been trash. You never know, but Lucas Herbert's been in great form, been really good around the greens with a putter. So I think that's a pretty good spot for Lucas Herbert to win. You got Billy Hole taking on Min Lu Wei, who's a rookie at this. Billy Hole, of course, is your past champion. Awesome putter with inside 10 feet. Great with a long. I mean, you guys know he's been in great form if you've been watching golf. So I like Billy Hole to get some points. And the funny thing is, if you use some of these guys to build out a DFS picks, they do kind of fall into different brackets. So you just keep an eye on it. But I kind of noticed when I went through this that it's not a bad DFS to plug some of these guys in. You're gonna laugh, but I got Richard Bland, who I've already touted in as one of my picks to make it out of the bracket. He's taking on DeChambeau, and I just told you that DeChambeau has not played competitive golf. Oh geez, since he pulled out of over at the Dubai or something like that. So, and also like I told you, he's here as a pure warm up. How I see it for the Masters, see where his game at, and so I think Richard Bland, who's been playing great golf over on the European Tour, I told you about. If you don't know who he is and don't remember when he showed up, I believe again it was at the U.S. Open, where he led I think day 2. Like I said, what his game is, it's a very steady, hits fairways, hits greens, and is a really good putter. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think it's, something to do. So I like Richard Bland. You got Max Homa taking on Matthew Wolff, who has been disastrous. Now, again, this isn't stroke play. So Matthew Wolff can go take a 10 on a hole and he loses one hole. And then maybe he sticks one, So, but I got to take the guy that overall – great recent form. Max is a good putter, good short game. Been great with the long par threes. He had the hole in one at, I believe it was the Players here not too long ago. So I like Max to be able to get through Matthew Wolff. You got Shane Lowry taking on Varner now. This one could be a little tougher, but I'm thinking with the wins, Varner's not that great off the tee. Also, very, very streaky with the putter, where Shane Lowry's just been playing great golf and can handle these kind of wins. The last one I thought was pretty good is Cameron Young against Patrick Reed. Now, you might think, oh, well, Patrick Reed, Captain America. But again, you got to look at his form coming into this. Been a disaster off the tee. His irons haven't been good. And even before that, his around the green and putting fell way back comparative to where it used to be. So that gives you, what do I got there? 8 players that I think should definitely win the first match. And also could be a good start to them getting out of their pod. All right. With that said, let's go look at some ownership projections and some weather. Okay. So right off the bat, you can see not as many entries that we've been seeing. This is the generated mass entry. So again, I'm over in fantasynational.com. Check it out. If you have want to do your analysis, only thing I'm doing on here for you guys is just showing you ownership projections. If you want to try to get a little unique, these numbers are a little low, which is not shocking. I think some people don't typically like to do the match play because I remember you just can't dumb it down. You can't, build a model, create the guys, and then, do your mass entries. So because you got to do it through the hand, that you're not going to get as many. But anyways, right off the bat, don't worry about these stars. These aren't my favorites. Maybe some are, but I just had to do that to get in this ownership side to show you guys. Long story short, Xander Schauffele, which I think, everybody's on him. He's got probably one of the easier pods to get out of, and people see that. And so he's at the highest. Russ Henley, that's very interesting to me. Let me look at his pod because off the top of my head, I forgot. But he's one of the guys that I picked. Yeah, so I mean, he's got to knock out Nah, McNeely, and Neiman. I would say Nah, for me, would be the toughest guy to get through, but Nah's also not had his form that he's had, but this should fit him. DJ's next. You got Max Homa, so guys that I like Homa, Will Z. That's kind of interesting coming out of you could flip a quarter between I think Victor Hovland and Will Z. I think they are very similar players. Gooch, that makes sense. You got Rom, who people feel like that's a pretty easy bracket to come out of. I actually like Munoz. Hoagie's been playing great golf. I think Cantley's interesting because I just don't think he's been in good form. The statistics show it. He's been missing on the irons. He's been missing. Well, here, I'll show you guys while we're right here on some of these guys if you want to see. I didn't get to do that yesterday, so let me show you. All right, so if you look real quick over his last 5 tournaments, losing 3 strokes at the Players with his irons, lost 2.3 at the Genesis. He gained at the Phoenix. That was probably his best showing. Of course, he had the second. Then again, he lost at Pebble Beach, lost a little at the Amex. And then the putter, too, hasn't been, I expect him to gain about 2 strokes. That's about the where I think he should be. So he's a little less than that. So I wanted to show you that. And also, let me show you Rom. I'm just giving you this so you have some forewarning. I mean, like I said, it's golf, and these guys can switch on a heartbeat. So you can see, again, he lost 6 strokes, almost 7 strokes with his irons. That's a rarity. I'm not worried about that. Also, I think he had, pretty sure he had the PM draw. This is what concerns me. Over his last 4 tournaments, losing, which is usually a really good around the green. I mean, if you go back, typically he gains around the green. And, should, like a Cantlay, gain 2 or 3 strokes with the putter. But he's just been losing strokes. Now, same thing. It could just switch. He might have figured something out, maybe met with his short game coach. Who knows? But just wanted to give you that information. Cameron Young, he's a big favorite. I think he's going to be kind of a bust. First time ever playing in this. Let me go look at his short game. I think he's a good driver, typically a good putter. Yeah, you see, does gain on Bermuda. Again, we have such small sample data. But you can see here, right? Gains, typically off the tee, hits a ball a mile. Didn't gain at the Players, but again, I don't know where his draw was. The irons can be a little on and off, as you see. And the putter is typically pretty decent, but around the green. So, he could definitely take advantage of some of the shorter par 4s. He could take advantage of these par 5s. So that's interesting. Norenberger, Lowry, you got JT. Let me go see if I see anything. Let me do this the other way. So you got to see some of the chalkiest guys. I want to see who's some of the least chalky. All right, Takumi. So Chingali, that's great because I like him. I'm glad that he's less than 2%. Matthew Wolf, no shocker, he's a disaster. Minwoo Lee, I like Richard Bland too to come out, so that's great. So like I said, there's that Kevin Na with a WD. Don't do not go with that right now. Just keep an eye on it. Like I said, I think what this is pulling up from what happened at the Players. And if you look at DraftKings today, he is not showing as a WD or out. So just keep an eye on that if you do want to play some Kevin Na. Patrick Reed, the game's been in terrible form, but you never know. I like Lucas Herbert is also going to be a differentiator for me if he does do what I'm thinking he could do. Munoz is a differentiator for me because I'm picking him. I like Seamus Power. So I'm just giving you guys also the flip side view of this, of some guys that if you want a little bit of differentiation, and this is honestly where, not anyone, but, definitely some upsets are going to happen typically. All right. Keegan Bradley's around 9%, Spieth's around 9. That's interesting. Scotty Scheffler, and I think it's because of his bracket. So he's less than 10%. And if you look at, I think Scotty's got one of the tougher brackets, my own personal opinion. You got Fitzpatrick's been playing great golf. You got Fleetwood, and again, around the green, putting specialist for Fitzpatrick. Fleetwood's been playing a lot better golf. He was playing good over in the European Tour too. And then you got Ian Poulter, who's, how could you not be? He's like a Sergio Garcia, like king of the match play, right? So that's interesting that he's that low. Now, Connor's being as high as 10%. I think that's shocking. I think that's a little Pat Mayo driven. I don't think he's going to do well here at all. That's my own personal opinion. He's just not a good putter. I mean, he's had some good putting outings on Bermuda. Yes, he won at Valero. That was Bermuda. But let's go look. I can show you how many times on Bermuda he's not done good. I mean, you can see he loses on all surfaces. And if we go over, he's been on Bermuda quite a bit. So at the Players, he gained, we'll call it a stroke. I'll give him that. He lost 3 at the Arnold Palmer, which is Bermuda. That's POA. That's Bermuda, so he gained 3. And then the Farmers is POA. Let's do it this way. If you look at some of the worst putting outings he's had, that's the Players a while ago. Like I said, I'm the one that's done this where I've like, look, Bermuda. When he does have some spike putting weeks, it has been on Bermuda. So I get that, but I'm just telling you, don't put your cards on that. But he can definitely have, what I see with Connors lately is he has a good 18 holes, and then he has a not good 18 holes, and he has a good 18 holes. He's very up and down lately. Koepka could be interesting at 10%. I think he could be a pretty decent play. And then all the rest of these guys are kind of vanilla. They're all, so there's nothing. So I showed you guys the highest chalk, and I showed you the guys that, if you want to differentiate, at least from this information, because I don't think this is a ton of entries, but, it should be pretty close, % or 2 either way. All right, let's go talk about that weather I've been touting. Okay, so you want to pull up Windfinder, Austin Camp, Mabry. This is what I used last year too. It's the closest point to the course. And this is what I was talking about Wednesday. And let's do this because sometimes I've noticed, let's go super forecast because this really breaks it down a little more. Okay, so Wednesday morning, the guys are going to get a little reprieve, but there's really nothing to talk about here because we're not, there is no showdown. But you can see it's going to get up steady around 12, 13, gusting over 20. So that's what I wanted to show you for the whole day. And then it's going to, stay the same thing on Thursday, averaging around, we'll say between 10 to 15 miles an hour, gusting up, it says here up to 25. So keep an eye on this. And there's really nothing to really keep an eye on. Really, what I'm telling you to do is, pick some guys that I showed you who can play in the win that you might already like that's in the win. Typically, that includes Australian players. That includes Neiman is a good ball flighter. You got, like I said, Scheffler. The guys from Texas and European, right? So just a little side note. That's the weather. Let me go back because with that, I guess we don't get to see Friday. So really the issue is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all good. So the last day of the pods should be no issues. It's stating it is weather. And then, you're going to see over the weekend, it's going to get back up there. So that's something interesting. I didn't notice this before It's stating the craziest wind conditions are going to be blowing out of the south, it looks like, on Sunday. So again, that might dictate what you want to do from a pick side ultimately through. All right, enough about weather. You guys got the idea. Now I'm going to go ahead and just share with you guys my bracket so you can see it. I don't care. I mean, if you want to dupe me, dupe me. I think once you see what I'm going with, you're probably not going to want to dupe me. But coming out of this top bracket, I already mentioned, I'm going with Munoz. Just it's a little differentiation. I think that I don't like where Rahm's short game is. Reed has not been playing good. Cameron Young could definitely, everybody's touting that he's the one who's going to come out. Why not Munoz? Great ball striker and can get super hot with the putter. So that was how I picked that. And then out of this bracket, I like Lowry, especially with the win and everything I'm seeing. Like I said, if you want to know my 1A, 1B, Munoz was my 1A, Rahm's my 1B. And then same thing if you go over here to the 16th, where Koepka is the A player, Lowry be my B player. And then I think this is, the most interesting bracket of anybody where Richard Bland could come out of, because Lee Westwood doesn't scare me at all. It's really either Gooch or Bland for me. DeChambeau, I think, is going to do absolutely nothing. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if he wins this thing? I would be blown away. But, that's where mine's sitting. So you can see, again, with the win, I think Homa can handle the win. Wolf's a disaster. Mac Hughes got the short game, but his putter and irons could just be so wayward. And then DJ, of course, past winner, has shown some spurts of life. Right, shot with that 63, I believe, at the Players the final day. Had a kind of up and down, well, not even up and down. I think it's more of a down Valspar, if you want to know my opinion. Scotty Scheffler. This is, I think, one of the tougher brackets, my own personal opinion. And but I am going to go with Scheffler making it out of here. He's just been playing amazing, of course, with the 2 wins at Waste Management, API. Of course, he was runner-up here last year. Texas guy, all that stuff. He should be probably one of the more chalky picks, I would guess. If I had to pick the upset, it would be Fleetwood coming out of here. I think Billy Holt has got a really nice bracket to get out of. I mean, Peters and Minwoo Lee do not scare me whatsoever. Hoagie would be the one that could cause some problems if he can putt. But what's amazing is that right off the bat, you get these 2 guys that are going to have to face up again, which that's kind of stinks. It'd be kind of nice to have them spread out for me. But I, then said just Scheffler is going to get by. It just seems like karma and everything. And, he, had his chances to win last year. So I'm taking Scheffler to get by at that point. And then, of course, out of the Hatton A group, I like Berger. This is an interesting one too. You can make a case for a lot of these guys. Berger hasn't had the greatest match play history, but the course and everything should fit him great. My next one would probably be Seabez if I had to go with a 1B. And then this one here is also a very interesting. I think the top 3. I'm not worried about Mitchell. Now, I could be crazy. I don't know why. Like I said, I just can't get my head around that Mitchell will be that good at match play just because of his short game and putting. But he has been playing amazing golf. So, who knows? M, I think a lot of people just steady, but he's very streaky with the putter. And then Cantlay, like I said, I showed you his irons, and the putter hasn't been where it was. But I think a lot of people are going to go Cantlay here for some differentiation. I like power. Again, also can handle the wind. That gets you, for me, on this side, you got Berger, Scheffler, and coming out of here, I got Lowry and Bland. Yeah, that's the guys that I've got getting to a Lowry Berger at the end. And then if I fly over here real fast, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but just if you're curious, I got Garcia, of course, amazing match record. I think Kokrak's game is trash. Morikawa makes me super nervous. If Morikawa showed me any kind of life the last couple tournaments, of course, I think he's a great fit here. So will I, maybe make one lineup or something? Yeah, for sure. But I like Garcia. I think that's a tough group for these guys to get out of, and I like Garcia. You got a lot of the guys that kind of do the same thing, specialty. If you remove Watson, I think Harman, Simpson, and Answer are all very similar golfers, but form-wise, I like Brian Harman. So that's why I went with that. Of course, Bubba Watson's had success here. But with the win, I don't think Wynn and him get along because of how much he's put spin on the ball. So that's, a little bit of my narrative on why I'm going to stick with that. Noren, I like him. Connors just can't, I look at these 2 guys as same. I mean, Casey's a little better overall, but they do things very similar. So really it was more of a Louis versus Noren. And just I haven't seen enough out of Louis. I told you guys a while ago that last year #1 ranked putter on the PGA Tour, and if you've seen since he's come out, that has kind of went south. And if you know Louis Oosthuizen before 2021, he was never that great of a putter. So he's kind of come back to reality. Is where I'm at. But that Noren's my 1A, Louis be my 1B. And then this is the one that everybody's going to go with Xander, which makes sense, right? Probably looks to be the easiest pod to get out of, right? Finau been trash. You got a rookie in this kind of match play event, and also not known that well. I mean, it's a good golfer, right? One of the best out of Japan, or one of the best maybe right now out of Japan. And then you got Lucas Herbert, who can handle the win. Of course, he won I'm going to say the Bermuda, and I think it was the Bermuda. It doesn't matter. Won, and then had a win over on the DP World Tour around the green. Putting's been great. So if anybody I think could take Schauffele down, it's Lucas Herbert. Hence, that's why I went with him. But he would be my 1B, would be Schauffele. And I'm putting quite a few lineups with him too. All right, moving to the next one. I think it comes down to Kisner or Thomas. That's my own personal opinion. I like Leishman, but I just haven't seen enough of his game to show me enough. Luke List, right, of course, won the Farmers, been awesome. But the putting, terrifies me. So I'm kind of removing these two, and these would be my 1A, 1B. I've got Kisner coming out in this bracket. Then this one here, I think, is anybody could win. This is another very tough bracket, but recent form, I like Adam Scott. Of course, he's an Aussie, can handle the win. I think Keegan is very interesting too. So I already mentioned I'd plug him into a few. But right now I got Scott coming out of here. Spieth, if he works up, like I said, you could throw a dart at any of these, and it wouldn't shock me whoever comes out of that. Then you got the Neiman pod with Henley, McNeely. McNeely was, I think, the last guy to get in due to, I don't know whose withdrawal. But I really like Russ. I mean, he's been playing really good golf. This course fits him. He's really good. Well, he was a really good Bermuda putter, and then he kind of fell apart a little bit, and then is kind of brought back what I'm used to seeing Russ Henley do. He's also very streaky. If you've been, ever use him in Showdown, you'll know that, he can come out, be pretty stale, and then just rattle off 4 birdies and then throw a bogey. And then, so I just like him in this kind of format, even though he hasn't done a whole lot in the past. We also don't have a lot on him now, right? I mean, his game hasn't been that great, but he is really good at match play. So that was my 1A, 1B. I mean, Neiman with the win showing what it is, he could be also an interesting play. McNeely would be the one for sure that's out for me. And then you got the ball striking kind of extravaganza right here. 2 of the best ball strikers can be kind of the worst putters. I mean, Hovland's improved. Will Zalatoris, this was back in the Scheffler days, right? I've told you when Scheffler started to make putts under 5 feet or 6 feet, that range, this is where Will Z is. I like him better at 20 feet than I do at 4 feet. No joke. So because of that, with these guys with the putter, I'd rather go with Tringali, an all-around game, and can be super hot with the putter. So you can also make a case for Straka, won the Honda, been in good form too. So this is an interesting pot also. All right. So you got to make your decisions out there. I went with Tringali, Henley. You got Kisner, Scott, Noren, Herbert, Garcia, Harman. That gets me down. I ended up going with Harman, Noren, and Kisner, Henley, and then flushing out my final 4, Lowry, Berger, Henley, Noren. And the championship, of course, will be between Lowry and Henley, and Berger and Noren will be for the consolation. And I've got Russ Henley winning. That's an awesome picture. So again, that's what I'm going with. You guys do what whatever, but that's, who I like. And it's also got some differentiation in there. You got to have that. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Okay, so I have been doing my one and done. Of course, on Before the Lock. I haven't done this yet today, or I'm sorry, for this week's show. These are the guys that I'm looking at. Now, if you don't know, first place winner, because it is a WGC event, is 2.1 million. That's big time. I mean, that's, the players was what, 3 million? So you could definitely make up some ground if you can pick the winner of this thing. Good news is, no matter who you take, they're going to get 41 grand. So if you wanted, this is a great spot to take a shot in the dark. Waste a guy that you would, don't want to ever play, like a Richard Bland or even the Minwoo Lee. Or if you want to take a crazy, stab, I think this is the tournament, the one event to do it. Now, I'm not saying I'm doing that. These are the guys right now that I'm looking at. I'll explain why. Of course, Billy Ho and Scotty Scheffler, both in great form. Both have done well here in the past. If you want more of what I call the condom pick, that would be these guys. Now, maybe a little differentiation. Look at the eyes. I think Kisner here is stoned. You got Lowry, of course, great and win. I think he showed pretty good at the Ryder Cup. He got, I think, his half point there. I forgot who he played, but it was a tough competitor. I just think he's a good pick all around. Of course, Kisner loves match play. We've talked to this. We've heard enough. So these could be good picks. Then, if you start thinking about guys that, if you didn't play Neiman at the Genesis already and didn't do great there, he's not a bad player to plug in here because, again, from a win perspective, we know he's in pretty good form. If you also want to save him for, maybe something later into Texas, but I don't see him winning a major. So if you haven't spent Neiman, he could be interesting. Again, I'm all on the win factor, and that's why I've got Tony Finau out here. If you want to wait to see if Tony kind of turns around, maybe he'll show up again at the FedEx Cup. But right now, he's been so out of form. And so where I'm going with this, like that Matthew Wolff kind of theory, right? He hits a really good ball flight, and he can birdie a hole and then go out and double bogey a hole. And that's not a big deal here, right? We're not worried about total score. We're just worried about who wins more holes than the other guy. So he's kind of an interesting play. Some of that, again, I'm mulling over it. Again, these are just the guys. But I told you my kind of thought process on this. Of course, we want to win, pick the right guy. But if you ever want to take a long shot, if you're looking to just waste a guy, not waste a guy, but use a guy that you're never going to use future tense on the next, we're about halfway through the season. So if you, depending on where you sit, also will dictate, right? If you're up at the top of your one and done, then, stay steady. If you need to take that long shot, take that long shot. All right, that's it. I think that sums up everything I wanted to tell you guys. They're going to have pressers today, but, there's nothing that presser is going to tell you. Again, from a stroke gain side, I did a little bit of that for you, but this is such a unique tournament that stroke gain data, I just don't think really, does a whole lot. Like, there's so many more other elements that you need to look at. All right, guys, as always, if you do me the honor, click that like button, share with anybody else. If you've not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Again, we crossed 1,000 a few months ago. Still need to keep building this for me to keep doing this. So if you like what I'm doing, subscribe. I put out 3 shows a week, and hit that notification bell. And any suggestions, any comments, tell me who you guys think. I haven't got a whole lot of interaction. I think a lot of it is maybe some people are just kind of skipping this event, but I don't know, man. I think it's one of the funnest, events to play. Now, it's hard from a DFS perspective. I like it probably a little more for the betting perspective, to take some long shots. But it's fun from the DF to sit and kind of do the work, enjoy it, embrace the suck, if you want to say, because you're going to get a little pissed on some things, but you might find that one, 6-man team that gets you far down there. So, and really on this one, you just need a couple guys to get towards like the grade 8, and you'll be amazed. You will get paid. At least, double your money or whatever. So, all right, follow me on Twitter. And I already told you, go follow PGA Tour Communications because that's a key thing to watch. All right, guys, take care. Best of luck to you. And like I said, if you're going to do Corrales, I did like Hank Laboda. So I was talking to one of you guys in a subscribe base. I did a parlay, so it's kind of fun to do some parlays. If you want to do some crazy parlays, look at throwing Richard Bland in there, and I threw in Hammer and Hank Laboda. And I think I put like $3 on it or something crazy, and it'll pay like 70 some K. So that's what I'm going to kind of do a little with the Corrales. That's about it. All right, best of luck to you guys. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I will talk to you guys. I believe we got the Valero, and then we're on to the Masters. So talk to you guys next week.